Welcome on out to the farm. I'm Jesse Canan, and today we've got a brand new gun. I did the unboxing a little bit earlier, but this is the Smith & Wesson 317 kit gun. This gun is so lightweight, it is not a toy, but it feels like it. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this thing just for a second here. This thing is a revolver, okay, which means it has multiple chambers, right, or charge holes, however you want to call it, and a cylinder that revolves. Okay, this turns, and in order to, well, let's just put some snap caps in here and show it to you. In order for this gun to fire, we have to, and I just dropped a snap cap in the grass, wouldn't you know that? And these are silver. But in order for this gun to fire, you have to press the trigger, right? But in pressing the trigger, we're going to cover something called double action and single action today, and we're going to do it less than 8 times so that we don't end up coming down on an empty cylinder. So you hear something called double action, okay? And double action means that the hammer and the trigger is actually doing 2 different jobs. So to demonstrate that, we're going to go ahead and go this way, and I can go single action. I cock the hammer. The trigger is going to do one job, which is let the hammer down, right? And now if we had a live cartridge in there, it would have went bang. Double action means that the hammer is going to, or the trigger is going to cock the hammer and then release it. That's 2 actions. Now we're in Kentucky, so I had to look that up, make sure I was counting right. So here we go. See the first action, and now if I go just a little bit more, it falls. So that was double action. So this is a double action, single action revolver, so I can do both. It's capable of doing either. And it's been a pretty neat little gun. Here's our sight picture. And instead of having a U-notch, I found out once I got the gun that it is a V-notch. That is a V. Can you see that V? Oh, there we go. That looks like a V. All right. So it is aluminum. My understanding it's an aluminum cylinder, okay, not a steel cylinder or a titanium. That's aluminum frame. We have a barrel shroud. If you can just see the tip there, let's not look down the barrel. Well, maybe the camera's fine, but we have a steel insert with an aluminum barrel shroud. Now, so the bullet actually goes through that steel, but we have this aluminum piece that's going to hold our sights and maybe give that barrel just a little support. This is our ejector rod, so if we want to get these out of here, we hold this upside down and push, right? Push like that. So once you have them all ejected, we'd have to put in, now these are snap caps, okay? These are not actual rounds, but you would put these in, pointy in first, and you see this rim that's on these things, okay? They're not all the same diameter, they got that rim, right? So that actually sits in this little slot here, because this cylinder's cut out for them, to where they sit in there, and that's what actually holds them. And then when you go to extract them with this, the ejector here, that's what'll do that. Now, after they've been fired, they might stick a little bit to come out of there, but since they haven't been fired, they just fall right out, and this gun's never been fired. So, but, you know, I just said that, didn't I? This gun's never been fired. I'll tell you, well, why don't we load some up here and fix that? Why don't we just go ahead and fix that problem that we have? Guns that have never been fired. Is that allowed? We should fix that. Now, this thing holds 8. Now, if you ever see those Westerns or anything like that, you might hear one of these guns called a 6-shooter. Well, that probably means that it would hold 6, right? But this holds 8. And I have a revolver that I normally carry, which, by the way, this is a Smith & Wesson J-frame. I normally carry a J-frame here around the farm. And this might actually unseat it because I seem to do a whole lot more, have to do a whole lot more work on 4-leggeds that might need a 22 versus the potential for 2-leggeds that might require that 38. Let's see what we got here. Cool. Oh, did you see that muzzle dip? Did you see that? And I had a light strike, didn't I? All right, so I'm going to save those light strikes actually, and we're going to try to put them elsewhere so that I don't have to quite worry about them as much. And see what I said earlier about that extraction, right? So now that these have been fired, they don't really want to come out of there, do they? But, and not the greatest, no, none of them want to come out of there actually. They are all sticking. They're all sticking bad. Wow, what is going on with that? All right, so those cases all stuck. I had to get something flat and hard that was not metal to push up against this ejector rod, and even then it didn't want to come out. And yeah, this gun's never been fired, so we're going to see, have to do a little more detailed inspection. But let's try 8 more just to see what goes on here. But you know, I've been having some problems here recently with modern manufacturers. Daniel Defense put out that H9, and that gun looked like it might have been pretty cool, but Daniel Defense has actually had my gun for 4 months now. Smith & Wesson, I bought one of their model 432 UCs, which is ultimate carry. I bought one of those, and that gun had major problems. And then I bought a 632 UC because I really like the concept of that 432 UC, that ultimate carry configuration. I like that quite a bit, and I had to send that back. So this is my third Smith & Wesson revolver for 2024, and you know, I'm not hating on Smith & Wesson. Obviously, I bought 3 of them, and actually I bought a 4th that should show up on Friday, July 5th. But they've just, now see, there's a light strike. There's 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so by my thinking, there's 2 in here that need to go off. So I'm going to give these just a few minutes because of the issue I had last time with extraction. I am going to have that problem again. So we're going to have to be done shooting for today. The gun's going to have to go back. But my thoughts on the rounds that actually do go off and what they're supposed to do is this is going to be a really fun gun. All right. I bought this gun with the hopes of I'm involved in a struggle right now, a fight, a war, if you will. I have the cat food bandits that keep going into my shop, and there's a cat door there. So the raccoons have figured out that there's cat food in there. So far, they've lost 8, but they kind of keep coming. So I thought maybe this might work a little bit better than my 38 for the cat food bandits. And I also then got to thinking about it, and so far, you know, Smith & Wesson, I've been having some problems with their revolvers, you know, the new ones anyway. And I got to thinking that if they don't get their act together and figure this out, because so far I've I bought 4 of them this year. The 4th one I don't have yet. It's still in transit, getting shipped to my dealer. But so far, this is 3 out of 3 new revolvers that I've been able to put my hands on that are going to have to go back to Smith & Wesson. So the way I figured, if they don't get their act together, then you know, we may not be able to get these anymore, because they may have to stop making them altogether and just focus on their semi-auto line or something. As if they're not going to put something out that's competitive, then they're going to end up going away. So that being said, I did share all my sold my shares of Smith & Wesson stock this morning after I got this gun and unboxed it. So anyway, this will be fun also for the kids. I thought this would be a great gun, especially it is so light. I mean, it is, you can't tell because you know you can't hold it through the screen there, right? But this gun weighs less than a pound, and when I say it actually kind of feels like a toy, I mean some of my son's little metal cap guns, they actually probably compare in weight. So if you're going to teach somebody to shoot, you know, we got to bring up the next generation of shooters, right? If you're going to teach them to shoot, my thought process here was, you know, maybe a trigger, instead of doing like the Ruger Mark IV series or something like that, maybe a double action revolver trigger, all right, in a J-frame, no doubt. If they can learn that, then what aren't they going to be able to shoot? you know, then everything else from that is going to be gravy. So, you know, again, in concept, I think this gun is awesome. Execution, I'm going to send it back to Smith & Wesson, and hopefully they get that fixed, and then I can do a chapter 2, version 2, part 2, whatever. I've been calling them parts for my H9 series, so we'll have a part 2 range day with this guy. But excellent, excellent concept, Smith. If anybody at Smith & Wesson watches to this far, I really need you to call the quality control department. I need you to go find out whoever's in there asleep, and, you know, at least wake them up. But when I was a shareholder, I'd have probably wanted you to go ahead and can them and send them on out the door and find somebody's going to be able to do it. But that, again, that might be the problem. We had the Great Resignation. Maybe they just can't get people to work there. I don't know. But that being said, you know, I use Clean's oil to lube this thing up. I've had people beforehand, when I did a revolver video with the 432 UC, they said, well, you didn't lubricate that revolver. You know, you didn't get to see me do it, but I promise you, if you watch the unboxing, yes, I did. And I overly lubricated it because these rimfires have a tendency to be a little bit dirty. And I noticed that if I oil things heavier and I immediately wipe them off, then they come up a little easier. So I use Clean's oil for that. And if you want to use some Clean's oil, you can use the code HollyRock10 at Clean's Oil's website to get 10% off. You know, so you could try it out. I went to Project Farm, watched one of their videos, and that's where I actually learned about Clean's oil. It did very well against its competitors. I tried to use, and I like Ballistol. I tried to use it, but Mrs. Dr. Canan did not like Ballistol. In fact, Mrs. Dr. Canan, who's now grinning while she's holding the camera there, she got really upset. She doesn't get upset with me a lot, and but when I put Ballistol in the house, and I got some trouble for that. So it's just the smell. I really liked it, didn't like the smell at all, but she could not tolerate it. So I had to find a different alternative. So if you have that problem as well, maybe check out Clean's oil. Again, HollyRock10. So other than that, guys, thanks for coming on out, and stay tuned for the chapter 2. If you guys have anything else you want to see specifically, you know, let me know. Like, comment, subscribe, put that down in the comments. And so far, I'm not large enough that I can't answer all your comments. I usually get to all of them, unless they're just, you know, crazy. You know, occasionally you got a trolley trollerton. So, all right, thanks for coming out. All right, so we cut the normal part of the video. If you want to stick around to see the problem, the unfired rounds have come out. So I think that the cylinder, that these are not the correct diameter, but you know, you see we did get a strike, but they did not go off. So this is the piece of video evidence for Smith & Wesson when I do send this gun back to them. In addition to that, I'm actively, you see the thumbnail, right? It's red. It's got some pink in it. And now it doesn't. It's white. Okay. So nothing's coming out. That's unsat. So we're going to go ahead and need to get that squared away too.